Plans change, things fail, you just gotta keep moving on.
Rocky Mountain High.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Rocky Mountain High, the series where Matt and I are building buggies to go compete at the We RC Rock Nationals happening at the beginning of June in Morrison, Colorado. If you're interested in the event, there'll be a link where you can find more info about coming and joining us below. But let's get into the progress that I've made during this week. As you can see, the buggy is back together. You'll see a handful of things that you've not seen yet before unless you are on the Instagram or in the channel members. But what we've got here is a rolling buggy. Last week we talked about some of the progress we made with the transmission. Everything is good there. Still a couple little details left, but let's talk about the appearance first. One thing that you'll see is that we did get the denim hood made. This is 2 layers of denim, a 3D printed insert in the middle, and then a layer of carbon fiber on the back side. And we've patinaed it a little bit as well, and it worked out pretty well. This is a pretty simple panel, and it worked out not too badly. Now, last week we talked about the color that I was choosing, and I was going with the dark one, but one of the comments last week was like, well, won't the resin make it darker? Which was obvious that yes, it will, and I should have considered that. So I ended up going with the medium, and that was absolutely the right choice because it made it darker. Who would have thought? But the color of that worked out well. The overall finish of the actual hood was pretty decent. I still had to do some wet sanding and things like that after it came out of the mold. You can see this side's got a little bit of a depression there. You can kind of see when the light hits it, even a little bit over here, but I'm not too worried about that. So the design of that, the inserted 3D print worked fantastic. I had to change the design of how I normally do things, but how I thought that design through worked out exactly as I hoped. And I think that I'll use that in more designs in the future. Will I work with denim again? I can almost guarantee you no, because it is weird to work with. It acts different, it moves, it doesn't, it's just, I love carbon fiber. Denim. Anyway, we do have a hood on there. One other comment that was made was like, oh, I need some brass or copper rivets. And I was like, well, I can do that. I actually have a copper coating solution here that works perfectly with steel. So I took my 2.5 millimeter flathead screws, buffed off the top of them, and then put my copper solution on there. And that gave me the perfect copper look to my blue jeans front panel. And that got us that look going on. The two other glaring things that you will notice are the roof and these side panels. Now, these side panels, you may notice, are not denim. They are aluminum. And they're not just aluminum, they're CNC milled aluminum in every way. They're not bent or formed, they are milled from a solid block, a big old chunk. And how I came about getting such fancy panels here on the side is that Jim, my coworker at Vanquish, one of the original founders of Vanquish, he had a few extra hours of time that he was so gracious to donate to helping the build. And what he did is I gave him the solids that I had made for the design of this side panel. And he worked out the tool path. He's like, I can just knock that out in a super rough fashion and just get it done for you on the 5-axis. So threw that together and we CNC milled me some Ripper-esque panels for my buggy. Now, does it go with the denim? Absolutely not. Am I going to complain about that? Absolutely not, because they're incredible. Now, as a bonus for that, I have a ton of the CNC footage from this. We videoed the whole process. So I'm gonna mix some in, sprinkle some into the video here for you guys to watch, but then we're gonna finish the video off with a little CNC ASMR. You guys can watch that process a little bit more in depth during it to see exactly how that went down. Now, I didn't go right to these. These didn't become an option to me until basically today, yesterday and today. But it's because I actually did the molding for the side panels. This is a side panel directly out of the mold. The other side I had already trimmed out, but they just didn't work out exactly how I wanted. I had some voids in ways, and again, it's just because of how weird denim is. I cannot explain to you how much different it acts than like even the carbon fiber that I backed everything with. Could I salvage these? Possibly. Probably, maybe. Would they look the way that I wanted? Almost definitely not. So I would need to reevaluate how or what I was doing to get these to work, but I'm not probably going to do that because these look so damn good. I love CNC machining, and having the opportunity to have those, I'm just going to take it. Now, I'll have these anodized. I'll most definitely do them the same color as the wheels themselves, and we're going to move forward. So with that, the last piece of the body panel puzzle is this roof. Now, this roof is of a different color, as you can see, and it's leather. It is actual real leather, and the graphics on the top were lasered. Now, I actually had a laser here that I've had for quite some time that I'd never opened. I've had the box brand new, and I just never got around to using it. So it seemed like the time. Now, I got the laser kind of figured out, dialed in. I did a number of tests until I figured out the power that was going to work for me, you know, or close enough. There's a lot of people who actually have a lot of experience with doing the lasering of leather for patches on hats and things like that. But I was just throwing something together quick because I wanted to get it molded, because I actually did the same process as like the hood. I put it into a mold with carbon fiber on the back, resin, but as you can see, it's all distorted. It's not square. All the marks were registration marks that were right in the mold. And so they were where they were supposed to be originally, but then everything just moved. So that definitely did not work how I wanted. This is not going to stay. This won't cut it. I don't like it. It's not right. And it bugs me a lot. The process worked. It's nice and rigid. I mean, it's a hard panel like the hood. It's super rigid, so nothing like leather as you would expect. One of the ideas that popped up during the live stream was do a denim roof and emboss a section that is lowered down slightly, like I did with the front, a section physically lowered down, and then I would inset the patch into that, and I wouldn't have to actually, you know, do the same resin forging of the actual patch into it. I could just put that in later. That's an option. It's one that I may consider. I have to pick up some more carbon fiber supplies, things I just ran out of. Bad luck, bad timing, whatnot. It's okay. Either way, though, time is running out. So we've got a couple of weeks at this point until this has to be ready to go. Matt is working on detailing up my motor, and my Send Cut Send parts have arrived. So I ordered 2 sets of the aluminum parts that I needed. One I've already removed from this side of the board, but I've got the rest here in hand. This is our new front servo mount plate that will sit up underneath, and I'll get all of the mounts 3D printed to get the servos put onto this. And the other one that you can actually already see is if you look into our front inner fender well there, you can see that aluminum. Now that's just resting in there. It's just sitting in there now. It actually locks in pretty well when it's pushed into place, but that will look nice in there, and there'll be a stainless or some sort of mesh screen behind that as well to give it some more depth and texture, kind of a cool, you know, cleaned up, cool look. One detail that I have not done anything with is that I would like to add something to kind of fill in this grill. I'll figure out what that's going to be. And then lastly, we've got this piece here. Now this piece, I need to make a die to get the right radius into the bend, because this sits in the back here, and this piece will bolt onto this lower structure. It's the lower structure that the engine actually mounts to as well. It's welded into the chassis. This will bolt to the bottom, and it'll curve up, and it'll basically sit right back there like that. And you can see it's got the nice opening for the exhaust, and then where the horizontal slats are, that will be kind of the area that will signify where the flow for the rear radiator and fan shroud would be. That's all designed. I just haven't 3D printed my own version yet, but that's just gonna be a nice little cleanup piece for the back. Give it a little something extra. So that's the last of our Send Cut Send parts. From here, it's time to start working on wiring. That's super important and something that I need to get to ASAP. So I've got to get everything inside of this chassis, make sure that I have a place for the battery, make sure that it's not too big of a pain in the butt to use and charge and work on, but that everything clears. When you have all the micro servos functioning and everything, there's a lot to it. So we've got stuff to get sorted. The interior cover, that is something that I'll work on this week, and I hope to have that done by the time this video goes up next week. The driver is the other thing. I need to get it so that it's actually secured in there, and I also have to separate it. It states in the rules, something that I didn't see until later, that the driver and the seat have to be separated. Right now, they are not. They are currently one. So I need to go about separating those two in a way that'll allow me to make them separately and then put them back together. I have a seat model on its own that I've shared with the others in the build off or build along so that they can just run an action figure or whatever they decided to. I think that this driver figure looks better than an action figure or something like that once it's detailed, because it's fit perfectly into the chassis, the length, the leg position, the arms. It doesn't have like the joint lines and things like that. It looks like an actual fabric style. And I think that that will be a more realistic look in the end. So I am going to stay with this style, but I need to separate the seat and it. I actually had a great suggestion came in over Instagram here just minutes ago that's going to make separating those easy, because I kind of did it in a way that made it hard to think of exactly how I was going to do it otherwise. But that's just CAD talk and something that's not super important for this. More than anything, I just need to get to the finishing of wiring, testing, just functionality, making sure that the functionality of everything is where it needs to be so that I can just move on and feel okay about where we're at with everything. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the radio setup that we're going to be using. But before we do that, help me feed the YouTube algorithm. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how disappointed you are that I'm not doing full denim panels. Was denim just everything you ever hoped it would be? Or can you appreciate the awesomeness of CNC'd 3D contoured panels? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're totally disappointed, 10 being these are the most awesome things in the world. But onto the radio. So I have recently been running the Radiomaster MT12 in a lot of my trucks. This is an inexpensive but amazingly powerful radio. It's a 16-channel radio that costs $130. The build quality is pretty amazing. Receivers are very cheap. They make 2 versions, an ELRS and an 4-in-1. The 4-in-1 has a module inside that works with a lot of other brand radio receivers. Now I have that as well, but I choose to use the ELRS version almost exclusively at this point. That's what I'm going to be using in this rig. Now, I have designed up this little knob back here that I 3D printed and put onto one of the pots on here, and that is what my 4-wheel steer is tied to currently. This knob I have hosted on my website for anyone who is interested in it. It's free if you like. One thing with 4-wheel steers, if you don't use it all that often, it makes it a little bit more difficult to just feel natural with. And since this truck isn't done, but I'd like to do some practice and I don't have another 4-wheel steer truck at the moment that is running or together, capable of being running easily, I found the easier way to go. And that is the fact that with a USB-C cable, you can take and turn the radio on.
Welcome to HTX.
Then plug the USB-C into the side, and it gives you a little menu that says select mode. And the first mode is USB joystick. And you can just select that. And my computer recognizes that a USB controller has now been hooked up to it. The benefit of that is that one of my favorite PC games is a realistic physics-based driving game called BeamNG. Now, it's more simulator than it is game, but it's got an amazing modding community behind it as well. And one of the vehicles I like to drive the most in there is a rock crawler with 4-wheel steer and portals. It's developed by a guy named Tom from Rough Country Crawling. And if you're a subscriber to his Patreon, you can get all of his vehicles, which are vast. And the benefit of the whole thing is that I've just mapped all of the controls on my radio to the controls in BeamNG, and I can practice with the 4-wheel steer controller on this, just like driving an RC. Besides getting your actual truck onto the rocks, I cannot imagine better practice for exactly what I'm after. Now, this is the Johnson Valley map, which is mapped after the King of the Hammers area, Johnson Valley. But this is an actual modified one that has a comp course built into it. This was done by Caleb Good, or Good's Maps. You can find him on Patreon. But he's hosted some online BeamNG multiplayer comps and that I've competed in with him. But for this, you would just come in and I'll spawn my rock crawler here. This is the that goat built crawler that Thomas developed. It's set up with the 4-wheel steer. The throttle is here controlled by the MT12. It's actually feels a little slow right now, but that's because it's in high range gear. Select down there on the bottom, low range, and then we're gonna lock the front and rear diffs. You can put it into, unlock, you can unlock the front, or sorry, you disconnect the front or rear if you want to try and do dig. You can basically do anything in this game. But from there, you can see my rear steer is toggled just like the RC. It's obviously a little bit slower because it's more like a full-size really is rather than the super fast servos that we run. So from here, I can just practice rock crawling like I would, get used to my button orientation, the way that the rear steer operates, which way I like it to go. Make sure that I'm getting used to that, making it almost second nature, like the steering on your actual rock crawler is. Steering downhill to try and avoid a rollover. I also ran over that top cone there. Now here, just like RC, I would have to be pretty cautious to not roll over. But this allows me, again, it's so helpful to do some actual practice with the radio, getting used to the direction everything's going. I could just go run trails here. There's multiple courses on this map, but just to get more used to this as second nature, I can just go drive through the actual trails on this Johnson Valley map. The Johnson Valley map is built into the game. That actual comp course is what's not. So we are still behind on a number of things. The roof panel, I am behind. That was a failure at this point. I need to reevaluate and just decide how I'm going to handle that exactly. Side panels, while I did have failures, I've found something that I solved my problems and that I absolutely love. I need to get wiring done. I need to get the design of the interior done. We need to finish the mounts and everything for those front inner fenders, a die for the rear bend. And then we need to get into fine-tuning things like making sure that this truck weighs at least 7 pounds. So I want it to be as close to 7 pounds even as possible though. So we're not gonna add too much. I'm gonna try and keep it right to that number, no more. I also still have to get the machined aluminum rod ends onto the truck. I have not got to that. I need to take all the links off, replace all the rod ends, get everything back on the vehicle. We do still have 2 or 3 weeks left, but time absolutely flies. So we're going to get back to work. We're going to get some progress made. I appreciate all of you who have supported the channel through the channel memberships. If you're interested in that, seeing some more of the behind the scenes stuff on the truck, seeing how things are going, how stuff's working, where I'm at, or what my thought processes are on this build or any other project that I'm working on. Again, I appreciate that. And if you're interested in joining, you can find the link in the description below, or you can hit the join button next to my channel name below this video. But with that, as always, I appreciate you guys for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. As always, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.
the